And that was just, the atmosphere was crazy. It was my first European basketball game that I've ever been to. I didn't even ask to hold the trophy. They was like, yeah, come hold the trophy. And then we just started posing for pictures. So I just feel like a lot of people don't understand like the way that my body is. I'm not the typical skinny basketball player, you know what I mean? Like, I really just feel like I'm misunderstood. Kudos to Derrick Rose on a great career too, but he helped me, a lot getting to the point that I'm at. I think it was a really good play for me. The move was pretty good. And then everybody obviously was going crazy on the bench. It's funny, you see another EuroLeague guard, Kendrick Nunn, was on the bench.
When the NBA season kicks in, we'll see social media, a lot of fans tweeting, hey, where's Talen Horton-Tucker? Hello everyone, this is BasketNews Film Session and we're here with Talen Horton-Tucker. Talen, welcome to Europe. I hope you're gonna enjoy this ride. And now I'm taking you to the ride of your NBA career, of your childhood, of your moments that you experienced and you went through. And we'll try to experience that journey together with you. Very first clip that I have, it's actually a photo. And we're talking about a 19-year-old kid. You actually, by then, you were the second youngest player ever in the NBA to win the title. It's pretty solid company, huh? You're with the title between LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Quinn Cook, and just celebrating that moment. Can you get us into that room? What this kid was actually thinking about that situation?
Honestly, it was just a crazy experience. Winning the championship the first year that I've ever played in the NBA is something that doesn't happen for a lot of kids. So, I was trying to just soak it all in at that time. But I remember I didn't play in the finals. I played during that playoff run, but I didn't play in the finals. So, anybody would be like, oh, I didn't play, so I don't really deserve to be around or, enjoy it the way I want to. But, those guys being who they are and the people that they are, they like gave me the trophy to hold in the pictures and things like that. So, that meant a lot, especially with those guys being who they are, Anthony Davis, LeBron, and Quinn Cook. Those are all people I looked up to growing up, and being teammates with them was surreal.
Also, it's basically LeBron or AD who gave you the title and just said like, "Hey, take those pictures, enjoy the moment."
Yeah,
that's some nice moment.
Yeah, they literally just gave it like I didn't even ask to hold the trophy. They was like, "Yeah, Talo, come." That's what they call me, my nickname, Talo. They were like, "Yeah, just come hold the trophy," and then we just started posing for pictures. So it was a good moment.
If now you would be in this room, what you would tell to this kid?
Just to take it all in. Don't take anything for granted. It's all gonna time's gonna fly. So just being able to enjoy the moment that you're actually in it is gonna be something important to further your career.
It's 2021, I think.
Oh yeah.
And you're hitting the game winner against the New York Knicks. And just tell us why this moment is special to you, because I guess there's some special opponent on the opposite side of the floor guarding you, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, so in this clip, it's actually kind of funny. Right before this clip, I had committed a turnover because Derrick Rose, Chicago legend and someone that I looked up to a lot growing up as a kid, was guarding me, and then he told me, he was like, "Yeah, I'm about to pressure you," and then I was brushed it off a little bit. Then he stole the ball from me in a key moment. So I tried to make it up as much as I can, and then just being able to make that shot at this specific time in my life was something big for me because, I felt like, with that being my first game winner, that was, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. So, kudos to Derrick Rose on a great career too, but he helped me, a lot getting to the point that I'm at.
In what ways?
Derrick Rose is a leader by example. So I went to the same high school as him in Chicago, and just seeing everything that he's done, it's just something that it made kids want to follow, especially being from Chicago.
It's funny that I have this picture of yours.
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious that he was your idol from the very beginning. What was this kid thinking actually at that moment, standing next to D-Rose? What was today to this kid and what was the tomorrow?
Well, at that moment, I was just shocked because I was about eight years old.
Ooh.
And it's Derrick Rose, the #1 draft pick. And then he's, it makes it better because he's from Chicago. But at that moment in my head, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is Derrick Rose. So, just a little starstruck at that moment and just happy to be able to be in the same presence as him. But just being able to see him right there let me know that I could probably do the same thing. Not saying the exact same thing, but make it to where he's at.
How did they get that picture? It was the year he was actually drafted?
Yeah, this is his first basketball camp that he had in Chicago. And a lot of Chicago kids that I'm still friends with to this day were there. So, it was a big moment for us as kids.
This is actually the second most viewed video on YouTube that includes Talen Horton-Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
But you should tell us why it could be so special. Okay, we see LeBron dancing. It was a huge dunk, but maybe there's some story behind that play, behind that situation, that sequence.
I don't really remember too much of the sequence that was going on. I was having a pretty good game, and the game was winding down, and everybody was trying to just finish the game and finish it up strong. So it just so happened that play just came naturally, instinctively, and being able to make a play like that in LA, it's always going to be all plastered everywhere. So I think it was a really good play for me. The move was pretty good. And then everybody obviously was going crazy on the bench. It's funny, you see another EuroLeague guard, Kendrick Nunn, was on the bench during that play too. So seeing them all react like that was crazy. And Stanley Johnson. So, it was good. I always want to make sure that I can get my teammates up out their seats at some point in the game.
The title actually says that LeBron almost hurt himself celebrating that dunk.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure. I think that he was fine. He just slipped a little bit.
Yeah, you can see it right there. They all started going crazy.
And I think K-Nun was somewhere here. Yeah, he's
right
there. He's there.
Yep.
And this is your career high game. You're representing Utah at the moment. 41-point game in the NBA. What does it take to have such a night?
It was just, a testament to all the hard work that I, put in that year, and actually finally get the opportunity to show who I am against, NBA competition. So it was towards the end of the year. We were still kind of in the play-in race around this time. So, we were trying to win every game, but, everything is different with every different organization you're in. So just being able to kind of put my talent on full display at this moment was great for me. And then obviously it's a career high, so it's the most points I've ever scored in a game. But, it's just basketball.
And actually watching you play, watching this highlight reel, there are two things that kind of get into my mind instantly. First of all, your size. I mean, you're 1 meter 93 centimeters and your wingspan is 2 meter and 16, which is insane for a guard. Is there any explanation how did just that happen? Because this is so unusual, and this gives you such an advantage on the basketball floor at any level, NBA or EuroLeague, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I wish I knew a reason why that happened, but I feel like God works in mysterious ways. I was just told that yesterday, and He just blessed me with the opportunity and the capabilities of having long arms and a strong frame. So I almost pretty much have like power forward or center qualities in a guard's body. So being able to have that, it makes me very unique. So I try to use it to the best of my ability.
Did you play, American football in Chicago back in the day?
I grew up playing football.
That could have impacted, or your parents, your grandparents were big, tall, or whatever?
My grandmother was pretty tall for a lady. She was almost like 5'10", 5'11", but nothing crazy. I did play football growing up, and that's probably a reason why I have a lot of like aggression, taking big bumps and things like that. And obviously my body allows me to take them, but just always tried to be aggressive. And playing those sports, basketball and football growing up, you have to be aggressive. So
that's the second thing actually that stuck to my mind. Watching you playing so aggressive, bullying into the paint, creating those shots, scoring through the contact. And I wonder if some kids are watching and they're thinking how to create that separation, how to create some space to make that shot. What would you advise? I mean, what was your story? How did you kind of manage to, of course, your body helped, but still there has to be a lot of skill included.
Yeah, I was always a lot bigger than the kids when I was growing up. It was a point in time where I was the tallest on my teams that I played on, and then at a point in time I was the shortest because kids got taller and I kind of stopped growing for a while, and then another year or two later I got tall again, so I kind of started reaching different points and different peaks of my body. But I've always been able to dribble the ball and be able to use my body to get to the paint and be able to make plays. So that was something that I've always tried to do. So no matter what, how your body type is, just always try to figure out how to be effective, and just try to use your body to your advantage.
Was there anything special about that night besides 41-point game? How do you remember that night? What's the highlight that comes to your mind?
Highlight that comes to my mind. I think it's towards the end. I threw a pass to Chris Dunn, and then he knew I was like coming back out for the last three, and he threw it right back to me, and I knew it was going in. So it was kind of, and then just seeing my teammates' reactions on the bench, that kind of it gives you a lot of confidence. See guys happy for you, and to see that things are actually going well. So whenever you have success and you're winning basketball games, it's always going to be good.
I actually was in Chicago last season. I remember we went there for Matas Buzelis, a Lithuanian player, and we saw you on the floor. And I mean, you were leading the second unit. You were scoring, dominating in some situations. You were really efficient. When you just consider your career, I mean, 41-point game, this 40-point game against Golden State as well. You had few seasons averaging more than 10 points, and just in general being still so young. I mean, naturally, the question to myself that comes to my mind is why he's actually not in the NBA. Is it something you're also trying to respond to yourself? Like, why I'm not in the NBA right now? What I'm missing? What I'm lacking of?
Off the top of my head, I could probably say just being able to, I feel like with me having a different type of body type, I get misunderstood for the type of type of archetype that I have, like me being a bigger guard and being 230, 240, and just people. I kind of get it's a misconception of me being in shape and out of shape and things like that. I just feel like a lot of people don't understand like the way that my body is, and they're not used to it. So with them not being used to it, sometimes when you're not used to something, you could be afraid of it, or you could have questions or some type of feelings that would be different. And I'm not the typical skinny basketball player, you know what I mean? Like, I'm bigger and I'm able to carry my weight a lot different. So I really just feel like I'm misunderstood. And then probably also improving my 3-point shooting, and actually shooting a lot more threes is something that I feel like, if I was able to show in the NBA, probably the conversation would be a little bit different. But outside of that, those are really the only two things that I think that it is. Because outside of, I've always tried to stay in shape physically, and I've never moved differently or anything like that. But it's always been, an up and down question about those two things.
Because I'm just thinking like moving to Europe. And I don't want people to understand that moving to Europe is a downgrade, actually. We have guys like Kendrick Nunn, which I saw you had practice workouts and videos and stuff, and he's making over $5 million over here and being a star, playing a huge role in enjoying these atmospheres and experiences. So I don't want people to understand it as a downgrade, but like making that step, I guess mentally is a huge thing. How did you overcome that situation? Like, okay, I have to leave the NBA now, I'm moving to Europe. It's quite an uncertain situation, like shaky situation. How did you try to convince yourself that it's a move that you need at the moment, and why you need that?
Just looking over every experience that we had in the NBA, and then seeing where I can improve, and just getting the best opportunity to be myself. Being able to play basketball is a privilege already. So just being able to play it at the highest level and at the highest output that you can give is a plus. So. I always thought about it as far as like leaving my family behind, my family not being able to see me, but that's really the most important thing to me. They're gonna be able to come over and see me and be able to stay for long periods of time. But I feel like that's pretty much it. Just always, staying true to yourself and taking the best opportunity to further your career is the most important thing.
What was your welcome to Europe moment?
My welcome to Europe moment probably was the cup game, the first cup game that we had. And that was just, the atmosphere was crazy. It was my first European basketball game that I've ever been to. Obviously I've watched EuroLeague games before, but being at one in person, you finally get to experience the feel. And
that's a nice introduction, actually.
Yeah, it's crazy, and we won. So just being in an atmosphere like that, it just kind of showed me just, how good it could be over here. So it was good. It was a great experience for me.
I was talking with the guys, and they said that you were asking them, like, is that how it goes every game, actually?
Yeah.
It's not very usual thing, but of course, and in the EuroLeague, it should be nice as well. And you had that experience.
Yeah, it was great. Just seeing how, how crazy the fans were just about the game, and the rivalry. It was just a big atmosphere. So I was appreciative to be there this early too. I wanted to play a little bit, but I had to wait a few days, so it was cool.
Do you have any setting in your mind where you want to invite your family, like for specific game, for specific stretch, for specific situations?
I just want them to get here as fast as possible because I want them to experience this with me. I feel like, with me being a family-oriented guy, I keep my family really close. I want them to experience every moment that I have. And, just with them not being here these last few days and the last few games, obviously it's a little bit harder, but, you realize that you're doing everything for them. So, I'm just excited. I can't wait to see him again.
In your EuroLeague debut game, you had 20 points in 20 minutes. Fenerbahce got this win against Paris Basketball. And this is basically the very last play of your debut game. You did a mistake and you were benched because it was the end of the game. So Coach Jasikevičius was just wanted to give you some rest. And I like that conversation, let's say. What was it all about? What the coach was saying to you? Because, Sharas is a very emotional guy, but usually you see the different emotion in this clip. Do you remember what was this conversation about? Why were you so pissed, I would say, and what you were guys talking?
So I was just, me from the beginning, I was upset because that was probably like my 4th or 5th turnover of the game.
5th turnover, yeah.
Yeah, don't remind me about that. But, just trying to get accustomed to the EuroLeague game and just, I was having a little first game jitters and things like that. But as I settled in, I got better progressively. But throughout that game, he kept telling me, like, just keep going. And then every time I made a mistake or if I did something wrong, I'll tell him, like, yo, coach, I got you. That's me. That's my bad. I usually try to have that type of rapport with my coach just because, like, I want him to understand, like, okay, I understand that I messed up, but I'm going to continue to play hard and I'm going to continue to try to improve and be better. And just right there when I came out, he was telling me that, in the EuroLeague, we play for the point differential.
Yeah.
And they basically wanted to keep scoring. And I felt, not saying like that, but I felt like I could have scored in that possession. And right there, he told me, like, yeah, I told you about, the point differential, not to turn the ball over. So he was joking with me, but I hugged him. I said, yo, my bad, coach, I got you. So that was just a funny moment early on with coach. And I know he's super emotional and super intense through the game. So I know he doesn't usually have those moments with players like that. But it's good just to have a relationship with him like that.
What was the wildest thing you heard about Coach Jasikevičius coming here? I guess people try to warn you about things.
Yeah, a lot of people warned me about him before I came, but it's kind of funny just because of the fact that, with me coming from Chicago, our coaches are just like that. It might be a different tone or a different language, but sometimes the
message is the same.
The message remains the same. So being able to have a coach like that again, I know for a fact that if you're able to make it through what he has going on for you or what he does, that you'll be an even better player. So that's really like helpful in my situation. Just being able to come over here and get used to the European game is something that you need, because you need somebody that's gonna be hard on you. You don't want somebody that's gonna let you do what you want to do just because of the fact that if you continue to do that, you could mess up and you could just hurt yourself down the line.
And I was told that you guys made quite a nice connection, which is quite surprising in terms of, how soon it happened. You came like 10 days ago to Turkey. Mm-hmm. How would you explain, how do you guys see the game, the approach? What made you click so well so far?
Just I'm a competitor. Coach is a competitor too. So like all of his, I don't want to call him antics, but how he is as a coach and how he reacts to everything, that's all coming from like a competitive side. With him being a player and then such a highly decorated player over here, like he knows what it takes to get to the highest level. So in my position as a player, you wouldn't want any other coach like that, because you wouldn't want nothing else from a coach but that, just because of the fact that he's been through it and everything that you want to be here, that he's done it basically. So I trust what he's saying, and no matter what if it's good, bad, I'm always gonna listen to him. So just being able to have somebody like that in my corner, I always cherish that, just because of the fact that he played, he did it.
And I've heard that your transition to European basketball as well was quite smooth compared from the environment you're coming off, because usually for the NBA players it takes time to adjust to the rules, different lifestyle, different coaching. and like some guys even told that it's too good actually. I mean, it's too soon, too good. I mean, it's quite unusual. How would you explain that? Is that because of your Chicago background, which is somehow, some way a bit closer to what the European basketball brings and displays? Could it be an explanation?
I would say, yeah, Chicago plays a factor in it too. Being from Chicago, you have to be kind of tough, gritty. You got to play hard all the time. And a lot of guys are skilled in Chicago too. A lot of people they already know us for being tough and stuff like that, but they don't know that guys in Chicago are really skilled. And that's pretty much, I feel like, what the European game is. It's physical. Guys are really skilled. It's fast, and it's tough, and it's gritty. So everything that Chicago represents, that's what the European game is, in my opinion. But also just the type of person I am, I love basketball. I love playing. So just trying to, figure out the game as fast as I can was something that I wanted to, take on head on and be able to make the transition as best as I could. And, I really just trust my teammates and things like that. They've been helping me a lot and getting me to, speeding me up to date and everything. So being able to have that support system with all the guys and the whole club has been great. I appreciate it. I haven't had that feeling in a while.
What did you hear about European hoops before moving over here? Because I watched this clip, you practicing with Kendrick Nunn, who is here right now. Of course, 4 years ago, he was still in the NBA. I watched that there was some pickup game with Mike James involved. I mean, you were crossing over a lot of guys who actually went or were already in Europe and made great careers. I mean, Kendrick Nunn and Mike James, we're talking about top 3 best players we have in Europe. Yeah. So did you, I mean, since you're a hoop fan, did you watch more EuroLeague before? Did you tune in some of those games?
Obviously, knowing who Mike James is and knowing the player that he is out here, I just followed him a lot. I started watching EuroLeague a lot more the last 2 or 3 years. Just being able to, with me and Kendrick being so close, I always paid attention to his games. And then I know a lot of guys over here as well that are playing that I've played against or played with. So I try to keep up with them sometimes and, just see what they're doing. So that keeps me in a loop with all basketball. Just being a basketball fan, you want to watch the highest levels of basketball. And I feel like outside the NBA, EuroLeague is the highest level. So being able to, have that, almost in your backyard is good. So you just be able to watch and just learn the game because you never know who you can learn from.
And what were your impressions watching the EuroLeague basketball being in States and even now experiencing that live against Paris in the opener game?
I feel like it's the same, really. Just being able to, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to be really physical. And, just coming into the game last night, it's all it's all lived up to that. So I feel like it's everything that I thought it was.
And just for the last chapter of the conversation, I want you to bring back you to Istanbul and the EuroLeague. And I can guarantee you, when the NBA season kicks in October and November, we'll see social media, a lot of fans tweeting, hey, where is Talen Horton-Tucker? Where is he? What is he doing? Because teams will start thinking about free agents, some additions and stuff. When these people will do that, and when they will watch this clip, how would you describe them? How would you describe them? Where are you right now, and what kind of setting and what kind of environment? What's your approach? How does Talen Horton-Tucker is feeling right now?
I feel free, just being able to finally play again and actually get out there and show my talents and my capabilities is something that I've been wanting for the last 3 or 4 years. I've got it, in bits and pieces, but here I feel like the best environment in Istanbul, playing with Fener and being able to get, the opportunity to represent them and see how the fans are really welcoming, and the president of the club or Fenerbahce is all, all for basketball, all for all sports, but, just very supportive. Like being able to get this type of feeling again, it really reminds me of like when I first came into the NBA and when, we won the championship, because, obviously, being on the Lakers, they're really a good team that wins a lot of championships, and Fener is a team that wins a lot of championships as well. So it feels pretty similar to that. And I just feel like it's a new beginning for me.
What's one clip, one highlight that we're missing in this film session? What's something you would like to show to the people? Especially fans in Europe, to get to know you better.
I like the reverse I did last game against Paris. It wasn't nothing. It wasn't anything crazy, but
yeah,
it just was a moment that happened pretty quick. It's the same play.
Yeah.
It was just being able to get to the paint, and I didn't jump as high as I usually could, but I'm starting to finally get my legs back, and
okay.
It's gonna be more to come from that.
And how would you like to be remembered, both by European fans, NBA people, when you finish playing? How do you want to be recognized by the people?
I just want to be the best player that I could be. No matter what that ceiling is for me, still, with me being 24 years old, I don't know where that ceiling is going to end. So I just want to maximize my talents and be able to show who I am to the fullest capability. And, I feel like if I do that, I feel like I'll let the people decide on how they feel about me. And I'm pretty positive that it wouldn't be in a bad light.
Thanks, Talen. I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.